What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to the Spitfire podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lemunyan, the Spitfire coach, coming to you with another episode to hopefully light a fire under you, get you motivated, inspired, all of that good stuff. We are finally back in video. If you are not checking us out on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@SpitfireCoach and see all of our recorded videos. We like to keep them under 10 minutes. And if you're not already subscribed on your podcast listening platform, whatever it is, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, make sure that you are following the Spitfire podcast. So today, I was a little fired up. I just got off a session with a client and I was having a guttural reaction. And I actually asked them for permission. I said, "Is it okay if I talk about this on the podcast?" And they said, "Yes, please. You can even name me by names." Not going to do that. Not going to name their company. But I do need to highlight this issue because every now and again it pops up. And I know that the coaching world is vast. Some people are certified, some people aren't. Some people use the term very loosely. In fact, last night I was watching a whole show on YouTube about Beachbody and how they aren't calling themselves coaches anymore. They're calling them partners. And that always used to bug me. I'm just like, you are not a coach. You are literally selling shit to people. But if, in fact, it looks like MLMs are going away, which makes me very excited because honestly, selling someone else's product does not make you a business owner. And having people pay into it is extremely exploitative. And I've been anti-MLMs for a long time. So please stop hitting me up in my Facebook Messenger. Actually, my friends at GriefCat have a great song. I should probably link it about how you have longtime friends that reach out and say, "Hey, girl, what's going on? I've got a great opportunity for you." So hopefully all that stops because it sounds like the federal government is getting rid of MLMs. Amazing. That is not what today's show is about. No, in fact, today's show is about coaches not doing the coacherly thing. There are tons of people who can claim to be a coach. There are tons of ways that you can coach specific things. You can be a fitness coach. You can be an acting coach. You can be a public speaking coach. You can be a weight loss coach. But to be an executive coach, an ICF accredited coach, means that you have gone through a certain level of education from an accredited school from the International Coaching Federation. It means that you have gone through a certain number of hours, you have submitted recordings, you have learned core coaching skills, you've passed an exam, and you agree, this is the big one, to a code of ethics. And this code of ethics creates clear boundaries for coaches, for clients. It makes it a safe environment. It gives you kind of a playbook, a rule of the land. And today, my client shared with me that in a leadership program, they were given a coach to work with who made a number of judgmental, insulting remarks, got themselves in the middle of a 360. I'm using air quotes very loosely. They basically played telephone and just flippantly gave this person a piece of negative advice without a container to do anything with it. So I want to just bring awareness to this because if you are someone who is seeking a coach, who may have coaching made available to you, I want to just create some guidelines or maybe some awareness of things to look out for so that you don't put yourself in an environment where you're like, what gives? This is not what I thought it was going to be. You're going to be more equipped with more education so that you can make a decision on where you spend your resources, like your time, like your money, and you get that ROI back. So the first thing to look out for is this person a coach from an accredited school? So things to look out for, do they have ACC, PCC, or MCC after their name? ACC stands for Associate Certified Coach. It means that they have achieved at least 100 certified hours working with clients. So I believe it's 75 of those hours need to be paid. It can be done with barter. You have passed a coach knowledge assessment and you have submitted, I believe, 2 recordings that have to meet certain requirements. So these are active coaching sessions to make sure you know what you're doing. You've also gone through 60 hours minimum of coach education training, and there's mentor coaching involved in that. PCC stands for Professional Certified Coach. Those 100 hours turn into 500 hours. So you have a higher level of expectation in the skills that you show and demonstrate as a certified coach. You are more into coaching the person versus the situation. And you have to have obviously the same thing. You can still have those 60 hours, but you have to have 10 mentor hours on top of that. And then you also have to have continuing education credits if you're renewing in. I believe it's 40 hours combined of core competencies with resource development. Now, the MCC, which is what I have, is the Master Certified Coach credential. When I got certified, initially, I believe back in 2019, it was 2,500 total hours. I believe they are increasing this. They just changed the exam to being a proctored exam that takes 3 hours. So it used to be where you could just take it at home and then you're good. But you have to submit 2 recordings. It's a higher standard where you're really coaching the essence of the person. And I know that sounds kind of woo, but it's really like really kicking into the intuition. So what's being said beyond what's being said. And then they will knock you on the points if you slip up in any of these ways. So giving advice, interrupting people. So in fact, active listening, if you're saying, you actually will get negatively scored for that. So there's a number of things, and I actually mentor coaches to help them on all these pitfalls and helping them understand the code of ethics and how they're there to help you, and what those core competencies really mean. And when my client presented this situation about this coach today, I immediately asked, "Is this person certified?" And they weren't sure. And I said, you can look it up. You can look it up on coachfederation.org. You can actually look up Credential Finder to see. So if you are looking for a coach, please make sure that you do that. I've seen a lot of coaches who actually haven't renewed their credentials, still saying that they're active, and you can be banned from ICF for doing that. So you can formalize a complaint of basically saying that someone's using the marks that they haven't actually earned or maintained. So first things first, make sure they're accredited, and then look at expertise. So a lot of times people have, where they've worked, what they've done. And I've seen a lot of people become executive coaches because they've been executives. To me, that's more of being a consultant or being a mentor. Now, a consultant is usually showing you the way, but not actually doing it for you. And a mentor is telling you about their experience, but not necessarily allowing you to come up with those solutions. So the specific term that this person shared to me that immediately red flags started to be raised, the coach said to the client, which is also my client through another program, you should get over that. And specifically, it was about how there was a peer-to-peer relationship, and that peer then became their manager. And the coach took a presumptuous approach and said, "It seems like you haven't gotten over this, and you really need to get over it." And immediately the client was extremely defensive because number one, was never asked a question about their feelings, was never asked if that was a topic they wanted to dive into. And then to be told you quote unquote should just get over it is extremely combative. It's judgmental and it's none of your damn business. So red flag there. The word that kept coming up is should. So let me just highlight this. As a coach, as an ICF accredited coach, that word should never come out of your mouth. And I just used it because I'm being an explainer in this mode. I'm an educator in this mode. If you are using the word should with your client, you are directing them. And that is not your job as a coach. The client should be leading at all times. Your job as a coach is to hold space, is to be curious, is to reflect back, is to engage them in a way that leads them to the goal. In fact, core competency 3 is about setting the client's agenda. It's always about that. It is not about the coach's agenda. And everything that my client was saying about this interaction with this coach made me believe that it was all about the coach and their agenda. And the fact that they got themselves involved in a 360 review where they were the middle person led me to make the other assumption that this is not a psychologically safe situation. So if you are getting feedback, you need to be very clear about the context, how things are being delivered, how things are going to be relayed, and use things verbatim. Make sure there is absolutely permission and there's safety. So instead of it becoming a constructive conversation, this person basically got dumped on and was like, wait, what does that even mean? So now they have to go do the legwork of going back to that person to ask them for more clarification. So do not insert yourself unless you have an assessment tool, unless this is something that you are trained in doing. Do not involve yourself in the go-between. And I don't know enough about this leadership program, but it sounds real messy and not a fan, not okay with it. This is why I'm having the conversation here. So if you're involved in your company's leadership and it doesn't feel safe, if it doesn't feel like you are protected, you can decline your involvement. HR tries to do this stuff all the time. You can ask questions. Okay, how is this information going to be distributed? What's going in my record? You can decline in a way where you're doing it through empowering and curious questions. So make sure that it's documented. Make sure everything's documented because what happened in this situation is a game of telephone. So I don't actually think the manager said what was relayed. I think this coach had their little lens that they tried to put things through and thought they were being cute. It was not cute. Don't do it. So if you are in the coaching space, do not give unsolicited advice. Do not meddle in the business that you are not paid to do. Do not meddle in unsafe spaces. You must maintain the client agenda. And if you are involved in leadership programs that are maintaining that you do, you need to start questioning them because your integrity is on the line as a coach as well. And all it takes is someone submitting a complaint to ICF and bringing it up to a board that you could lose your credential. And in the times that we're in now, trust and permission and safety are so important. They're at an all-time low across the board. And the coach-client relationship is so like fragile to begin with. And people need a safe space. And if people don't think they're safe with their coaches, they're not going to open up. They're not going to be able to go to those scary places to have those breakthroughs. They're not going to be taking as many risks. They're going to be extremely guarded, which is going to ultimately make your job harder. So maintain the trust, maintain the safety. And if you are engaging in unsafe practices, check yourself, check your intention, check your entitlement. What are you doing in this space if you're just out there giving people advice? I do it on my podcast because it's free space for me to do that, but I absolutely do not tell my clients how to live their lives. I allow them to come to those conclusions on their own. I ask questions and I reflect back on what I'm noticing. And I always ask them, are they open for suggestions? And I give them permission to discard it because that is a core competency as well. You have to allow people to accept or reject on their own terms. You are not there to teach people how to live their lives, to tell them who they are, to tell them what to do. You need to let them come to those conclusions because their success is not your success. And that was a huge lesson for me to learn as a coach. I used to feel good when my clients had these major breakthroughs. But you know what? At the same point, I felt like garbage when they weren't having those breakthroughs. And here's the thing. Someone might have an immediate light bulb and then do nothing about it. Or someone might have a light bulb 5, 10 years down the line and you hear from them and it's great, but it's not you as the coach. You might have created the space, but the client did the work. The client took the risk. The client put themselves out there. So stop making it about you. It is not about you. We need to remove the ego from the coaching space. And I think this is the problem with the social media glitz and glamour of having personal branding related to coaching, because it shouldn't be about you. It should be about the transformation that you are enabling the coachee to have. And you should be taking a back seat to facilitate that. So I will get off my soapbox. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to have some water. I feel like I just got this off my chest. I hope it was helpful, but please do your research. If you are looking to become a coach, if you're looking for a coach, make sure that these people are certified. And if something doesn't feel right, I highly encourage you to check out the Code of Ethics because you are well within your rights if you feel like there's a violation to submit something. I have known many sketchy coaches who have been able to get by with things, and I don't want people like that in my industry, honestly. I don't want to be associated with people who are slimy. It's not how I do things. It's not how I want to be associated. It's not how I want my industry to go. So hold standards. If it doesn't feel right, ask questions. Do your research. Look at who your friends are working with, who they really enjoy. Watch people's videos, listen to their podcasts, get a feel for what they stand for, because you'll be able to hear very quickly in their voice if they're legit or if they're just kind of gimmicky. You also see what kind of people they have on their show, if they're kind of snake oil salesmen, things like that. Um, so do your research, trust your gut. And if something doesn't feel right, push back. Have boundaries. Just say time out. I don't think you're allowed to say this to me. I don't think you're allowed to give me advice as my coach. And if they say, yeah, I am, like, ask them where they're certified, where they went to school. It's not an insultive action in my book. I'm just curious. Where did you go and get certified as a coach? Because there's a lot of people out there that really have no business because they haven't gone through the process of really checking their own internal shit. And it gets projected everywhere. They do this whole like spewing shoulda, coulda, wouldas from when they were back in corporate America. And it's just messy. So trust yourself, do your research, push back. And if you are a coach, please, please, please make sure you are certified. Make sure that you really understand the code of ethics and the core competencies. And if you need a refresher, head over to my website. I always do group coaching courses, even if I only have two people. It's a horrible business model, but I would rather equip people and lose money with the amount of time I'm spending on it to make sure that people know how to operate safely and that they're doing no harm and they're actually helping people. So you can head on over to spitfirecoach.com, click on services, and there's some information about mentor coaching. So hope this was helpful. Again, I'm going to go take a breath and get off my soapbox. If you have any questions about this, of like, Lauren, what the heck were you talking about? You were very ranty. Feel free to reach out, Lauren at spitfirecoach.com. And we'll see you next time.